Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Returning listeners, great to have you back. New to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. Picked an awesome episode. If this is your first episode with us, we've got Jalisa Hardy coming on the podcast. She is a super neat lady. She's going to talk about the businesses that she runs. She's an author. She has a coaching business. She's a speaker. She also happens to be a minister. She's going to talk about some of the challenges that she's experienced in her life and what those have taught her. She has developed a couple of frameworks by which it can help you think about what it is you're trying to accomplish in your life and how you can do that in the most productive and authentic way that you're capable of doing. She's a super neat lady. Really glad we were able to get her to come onto the podcast. So without further ado, let's bring Jaleesa on right now. So, Jalisa, thank you so much for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk today. Really great to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Joe. I'm
Yeah,
excited to be here.
me too. Yeah, we had a great conversation a little while ago. It was very funny because one of your kids was running in and out during our conversation. Brought back memories of. I have three grown sons now, but it brought back memories of when my kids were young and running around the house and creating all sorts of havoc. So it was fun. During our conversation, but have been very excited to get you on the channel because I think your story resonates perfectly with our audience. You know, what we try to talk about, what we preach on Salty Ginger Talk is we want people to live a purposeful life. And that can be whatever you choose. It's not our place to make judgments. It's not our place to tell you you should be X, Y, or Z. You get to choose whatever it is, but you shouldn't just float. You should pursue something that means something to you, and you should build your life in a way that allows you to pursue that and creates meaning and happiness and excitement. And that's kind of what we're about. And you have dealt with a lot of things in your life and still built really successful things in your life. And so I'm really excited for you to kind of walk our listeners through that and tell your story to them straight from your mouth because you're going to do a much better job of telling it than I ever could. So, what we like to do is at the beginning have you give kind of an overview of who you are and your kind of progress through life, broad strokes, high level, and then we go back and kind of go piece by piece and kind of do a deep dive on those important points, those inflection points, the places where you have strong memories, where you learned things that made you who you are or helped make you who you are today. So, if you wouldn't mind, I'll turn it over to you and give everyone kind of an idea of how you've made your way through the world up to this point, and then we'll do the deep dive stuff.
Yes. So, as Joe mentioned, I am a single mom. My kids are now, since we talked, they're 5, 5, and 3. They were 5, 4, and 3 the last time we talked. My 4-year-old just turned 5, and my 5-year-old will be 6 in October. So, if you want to do some math, okay, my kids are 10 and a half months apart. Okay, my older two are 10 and a half months apart. So, for 45 days, they're the same age every year. So, I let people know that in the very beginning because my 5-year-olds, they know how to pick locks. So I've locked my door, but we'll see how long that lasts.
Got it. We're totally good here. So you do what you need to do. Zero issues on our side.
Yes. But outside of that, one of the things that you mentioned, Joe, a word that I love that I've had to redefine throughout life is success. And I used to define success as money, as recognition, as different things that really didn't add value to my life or the lives of others to an extent. Now I define success as really walking in my purpose and being the person that I desire to see in the world, being the person inside and outside of people's, vision, sight of vision, being able to see me, having that integrity to say, you know what, I wake up every single morning and I'm the person in front of people, not in front of people, that I desire to see and be in the world. And for me, that's really become my mission, to really guide people to see and be their most authentic selves. to really uncover and release limiting beliefs, because limiting beliefs have held me back in so many ways, but doing the work to uncover and release them has really helped me to redefine success and what purpose looks like for me. And then understand and know that for me, my brand is the golden child, but I truly believe that everyone is a golden child. There is a reason for each and every one of us here on this earth at this point in time. So the more that we can live that and see that in ourselves, the easier life becomes and the better the world becomes. So for me, that's the work that I do through coaching. I am an author. I'm currently writing my next book. I help other people self-publish books. I do a very individualized and intuitively guided coaching process with people. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody's challenges are different. So I cater to each client that I have, even in group settings. I've built communities on social media. I've built communities on YouTube as well as meetup.com. So I do a lot of different things to build relationships and build communities with people, because that for me is the true currency.
I love that. Let me just first say I absolutely love how you define success, and I agree with you 100%. Look, again, we're agnostic, non-judgmental here at Salty Ginger Talks. So it's not my place. If you want to define success as having a shitload of money and a Bugatti and all the other stuff that goes with it, cool, do your thing, fine by me. That's not how I define success either. It's funny, I do sometimes I'm a guest on podcasts. I mostly host my own podcast. And I think we talked about this. My real job, I'm the CEO of a company that owns and operates grocery stores in Chicago. So I do the podcast because I love doing the podcast. I get to meet such cool and interesting people like you. And I learn so much from my conversations with people. But I learned long ago that I define success as relationships and experiences. And I got asked the question, how do you want to be remembered when you die? And I'd never really thought about it, believe it or not, before they asked me that. And I said, I think I want to be remembered as a really good husband and a really good father. That's really important to me. Like my family is the most important thing in the world to me. And they said, wow, really? So like you've had some business success, you do this, you do that. I'm like, yeah, but I like that I know this sounds bad, but that doesn't really matter to me nearly. And I say that sounds bad because like I take that responsibility very seriously. There's a couple hundred people counting on me for their jobs, and there's thousands of people counting on me to make sure they have affordable groceries in places where there's not a lot of affordable groceries. But that pales in comparison to the importance of my family and the relationships and experiences I have with them. So I absolutely love your definition of success. I think you said it so well. That's a great thing. So thank you for sharing that with us. I think it's awesome. So yeah, how'd you get started in all this? Like you didn't just wake up and go, you know what? I'm a minister, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach. How'd you work your way into this?
I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit, my mom would say. I started my first business in middle school. So what I would do was go to Sam's Club, get the candy in bulk, and upsell it to my peers, the other students in class. And that was my first experience with entrepreneurship. I would literally bring home $60 to $80 a day from candy sales. And as a seventh grader, that's a lot of money to be, bringing in and managing on a day-to-day basis. And that showed my mom. She's like, yeah, you definitely have an entrepreneurial spirit. And even though the school shut down my first business because I was making more money than their vending
You
machines,
didn't have a permit. You didn't have a permit to sell your candy, right?
I was putting their vending machines out of business. So they couldn't have that. But that for me showed, my entrepreneurial spirit. And from there, I started at the age of 18 in different network marketing businesses. But it was still a very structured way of doing things. So for me in 2018, I self-published my first book. I had no clue what I was doing. No clue at all. But I knew that it was something that it was for me to do. So I figured it out. People came along the way, resources came along the way. Literally, I truly have had divine synchronicities happen for me to bring my book together in 2018. I sat down for an hour a day over 20 days and wrote 170 pages of my book.
Woo.
And
You were grinding, huh? That's a lot of
yes,
work.
and it was a life altering experience because my book, the title of my book is It's All in Me, My Journey to Freedom and Living Abundantly. I share a freedom framework that was really, really the catalyst of me getting out of the abusive marriage that I was in. And I didn't know it at the time. I thought I was writing for other people, but I was writing for the version of me that would need it to get through that process.
Mm.
And I wrote that book. I shared it. I had my book launch. Everything was absolutely amazing. And that was February of 2018. I ended up getting married August of 2018. So right after my book launch, I went into wedding planning mode. So I kind of put my book on the shelf, but I knew that there was more to be done with that book. So I ended up getting my LLC. I started my business, got all my business bank account, all of that stuff situated because I knew there was more to that book. And life in 2024 actually brought me back to it. After, going through my divorce, the pandemic, having all three of my kids, I was a teacher at one point, but it brought me back to it in 2024, because I realized there was more to it. I gave birth to that book, but it was a version of me that I gave birth to at the time. And going through those experiences that led me to get back to supporting other people with giving birth to things, not just books, but businesses, babies, because I'm in the process of becoming a doula. So just realizing that process, that journey of me looking for abundance and freedom led me back to where I am today to be able to support more people in community spaces and through the offerings that I have in my business to be able to do the same.
Mm. So, it's interesting. One of the things, so we have all sorts of different people from all sorts of different backgrounds, and we talk about all sorts of different topics on Salty Ginger Talk, with the overarching theme being, hey, look, there's lots of ways that you can live a purposeful life. And these are all people that have lived a life that's purposeful to them, and they're going to share their stories and experiences with you. But we see commonalities across all of those people. And sometimes we talk about really heavy subjects. We've had people on who've experienced sexual abuse as children, incest as children, people who have lost children to accidents or death or disease. And always, always they talk about being able to get to a better spot with a couple of things in common. One of them you've talked about, which is taking action. So they always take action. They might not know where that action is going to lead, and that action might lead them down a path that is very different than the path they thought that they were starting down. And then the other one is when they stop thinking about what they can do for themselves and start thinking about what they can do for other people, good things generally happen to them because it gives them what they need when they help other people. And I hear you talk. And so for those that don't know, a doula is like a version of midwife, someone that births people at home, right? Yeah.
Yeah, at home and hospitals, but it's really to support with giving like positive reinforcement, advocating for them when they feel that they may not be able to, but giving them that additional support and care, whether it's before, during, or after they've given birth.
Got it. I just wanted to clarify that for some of our less experienced or younger listeners that might not know what that term is, because you do that. You've got coaching, you're a minister, all of those things are helping other people. So there's a very common theme across the things that bring you joy and bring you happiness. So that's something we see in all of our guests as well. So I find that super interesting. Do you think you wrote the book knowing that it was something you were going to need down the road? Or do you think that because of the experiences you were having, you're writing the book to try to share it with other people? It's a little bit of a chicken and an egg question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't know the extent that I would need it. I knew that part of it was for me, it was for my healing journey because some of what I wrote in my book, I never told anyone.
Mm.
So for me, putting those things out into the world and also essentially things that my family had never, talked about or even healed from or processed through. For me, it was, yes, I knew it was going to be for me, but I knew that there were so many people suffering in silence. The more that I told my story, the different aspects of what I wrote about in my book that I've been able to overcome, like you mentioned, incest, child sexual abuse, like those things that I experienced, I was able to share with people, knowing that there are people out there suffering in silence without a voice to even put to words what they're going through or even how to get to the other side. So for me, it was giving people the opportunity to see that one, that they're not alone, but also see there's another way for them to process and deal with the traumatic experiences that they've had.
Mm. Yeah, it's I think that's one of the things that so first, let me just say I always appreciate and it's very humbling to me that our guests trust us and our platform enough to come on and talk about difficult subjects. And I appreciate your willingness to do that for the exact reason you just talked about. So for our audience, you don't know who's out there and what they're going through, and for to hear it from someone else, say, "Hey, it's not just me, right? I'm not alone. There's other people that have had to deal with the issues or the challenges that I'm dealing with," and hear how they did it is so helpful. So I just want to say thank you for trusting us and for coming on and doing that. Um, but even before then, I was reading your website and your bio and some of the things. And even before you were born, there was like the doctors told your mom that there was going to be a bunch of stuff wrong and that things weren't going to go well in your life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I tell people I had to be born with resilience
Hmm.
because doctors gave up on me even before I even had the chance to take my first breath. So my mom had already had fertility challenges. She had two miscarriages before me and one after. And with my sister, she had her 3 years prior to me, and she wasn't able to carry her to full term. So she had never carried a pregnancy to full term. When my sister was born, she was 4 pounds, 4 ounces. And for me, my mom and dad were actually in the process of getting a divorce. They were calling it quits. There was a lot of different things going on with that marriage. And my mom just felt like it was best for them to separate. And, being grown people, still being married, they did what grown people do. And, out came me out of the equation. She said, she would tell me, she said, you weren't an accident. She said, but you weren't planned. You were not at
Hmm.
all planned. So having me, it was definitely a blessing in disguise, because it wasn't planned. But she calls me her miracle child. She says because 4 to 5 months into her pregnancy, they told her, they ran the different tests, the genetic tests, and they told her, they said, your baby is going to be born with Down syndrome. And 6 to 7 months back into her pregnancy, they do the anatomy scan, they did all of that, and they found that I would be born without a stomach and that my esophagus and my windpipe will be fused together. One of the nurses told her, she said, the best option for you and your baby would be to terminate the pregnancy.
Ooh.
Because even if you make it to full term, which is not very likely based on your history, your baby's going to need multiple surgeries to even have any type of quality of life. And my mom, being the woman of faith that she is, she said, you know what? I see the test results. I hear your recommendations. I see all of these things. She said, but I'm believing for a different outcome. And for her, that meant going to church. She went to a revival, let them know what was going on, had them pray over her. And she said the only thing that she remembers is feeling like she was being lifted off of her feet and that God was pouring gold into her stomach. And after that encounter, she went back to the doctors and they couldn't find anything wrong with me.
Wow.
So that is why I rebranded as the Golden Child, because again, coming back to purpose, coming back to redefining success, and meant truly walking in the gifts that I was born with of resilience, of faith, of miraculous healing. So that is why I rebranded in 2024 after going through the pandemic, 3 traumatic pregnancies, a traumatic marriage, and divorce. I realized after I gave birth to my last child, God said to me, it's not just you giving birth to your son, you're being reborn. And that was my rebirth as the golden child.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about you consider everyone as a golden child in their own right. And I think it's a really healthy way to think about, like, you can't do good things in the world if you don't feel good about yourself. you know? And I think that's step one. And there's a difference between being cocky and brash and arrogant and having a self confidence and a belief in yourself that allows you to do good things in the world. And, look, I'll tell you, I've crossed that line. I have a lot of self confidence myself. And when I was young, I was a lot dumber. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't know how dumb I was when I was young. I think I'm just as dumb now, but I know how dumb I am. And you know what I mean? Like when I say that, like there's so much information in the world and we know none of it. And everybody thinks they're so goddamn smart
Yeah.
and they're not. You don't know almost all the information that exists. And so I think smart people really understand how dumb they truly are. And that's kind of how I think about myself now. Is there's so much to learn. And that's like, you know, again, that's why I do the podcast. I learn so much from the people that have different experiences, see the world differently than I do, and are willing to share those experiences in a productive and genuine conversation, which is what we do on the podcast. And I love how you use that brand, the golden child, and can apply it and it kind of attracts other people, right? So you can hang that on them too, and it's useful.
Yeah, absolutely. In all my videos, that's my greeting. Hey, golden child, because I want people to be reminded that they're worthy, that they're enough, that there's purpose for them being here. You might have gone through so many different difficulties, so many traumatic experiences, but for me, I've been able to turn the mess of those tragedies into material for the masterpiece that my life is. So that's what it's about, like supporting other people with that process, to know that life is going to be messy. We're going to have some messy experiences, but we can either sit in the mess or we can use it as material for the masterpiece that our life is and that we are.
Yeah, I love that. And along those lines, you've developed a couple, at least from what I can see, a couple different ways. I don't know what you want to call them, structures, ways of thinking, processes you can use to kind of help you work on your mindset. One of them is the acronym CALM, C.A.L.M, and the other one is a freedom framework. And I was hoping we could spend a little bit of time talking about those. If you want to wait till later to talk about those, that's fine. But I was very interested to kind of get your perspective on what those are, how you develop them, how you use them to help other people, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the freedom framework I mentioned, that was from my first book. That came from actually sharing a part of my story on social media about my childhood experiences that I had, childhood traumas. And someone reached out to me about doing a speaking engagement. And as I'm preparing for the speaking engagement, that freedom framework came up. And when I sat down to write my book, I was directed back to that freedom framework for the book and the outline for the book. And it's really, as I mentioned, what has really been supporting me to navigate traumatic experiences. And I didn't realize it until I kind of wrote it out. And I'm like, oh, these have been the recurring themes and the
Mm,
recurring things that I've had access to support me with overcoming and navigating traumatic experiences. So it, the first part of the framework is faith. And whether you have faith in God, whether you have faith in universe, God, source, faith in yourself, that's what that's about. Your mindset and the beliefs about yourself and a higher power that really guides and supports you through those experiences. The second one is forgiveness. And for me, that has been huge in my life journey. I had to really work on not only forgiving others, but forgiving myself, because there were some
mm,
decisions that I made in my life that I held on to and felt like I needed to continue to essentially be punished for. And realizing that we do the best that we can with what we have. Like you said, we don't know what we do not know. So
hmm
for me, it's giving myself grace to make mistakes and knowing that I'm doing the best that I can. So that's the second F. The third F is fellowship. Like we talked about, for me, my support system, my community has literally been like my lifeline, because to try to navigate the different things that I've experienced on my own, I would not be here today, even able to talk about it.
Mm.
So for me, having people and now building communities and safe spaces for people to be able to be supported, held accountable, and have the resources and tools that they need to navigate life's challenges, that is so important for me. The fourth F is feeding your being. So for me, originally in the book is feeding your body, but I realized that we're more than just a body. We have different aspects of who we are. So when you're more intentional about feeding your being, not only what you're eating physically, but what are you watching? What are you listening to? Who are you allowing to speak into your life? What are you speaking into your own life? So what are you eating as a being that is going to support your growth, your healing, and your life's journey? And then the other F is fun. So for me, I realized that life can be so much more fun and exciting if we choose for it to be. We get to adulthood and we're conditioned and programmed to believe, oh, you got to be serious, you got to be an adult, you have to do these things. But for me, it's like, look, life is a playground. And sometimes, you have opportunities to play with some fun and exciting people. Other times, people aren't going to want to play with you for whatever reason, but you learn and you grow in these experiences of play and creativity. So for me, that's what really, supports me through journeys of trauma, of tragedy, to know that although it might not be the experience that I want it to be, in some ways I can make it fun.
I love that. I want to spend a little bit of time on forgiveness, because so one, I agree, like that's brilliant. I agree with everything you just said. The forgiveness really struck me though, because it's something that I try to teach other people. One of the reasons why our podcast works and why people are willing, at least in my opinion, why people are willing to open up to me is because I'm genuine and I'm not judgmental. So this is who I am. Like this is exactly who I am all the time. And that's either good enough for you or it's not good enough for you. And I'm okay. That's okay either way. You don't got to like me. You don't got to endorse it. You don't got to agree with me. That's okay. I don't think any worse of you if you don't like me. That's fine. It's your prerogative. But I think people struggle with forgiveness, not only of others, but like you talked about, of themselves and the mistakes that they've made. And I always talk about the way I explain it is holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting your enemy to die, right? The holding the grudge has such a negative impact on you. It's got nothing
Mhm.
to do. The other person doesn't lay awake at night going, man, I think Joe is thinking about me right now. They don't care. They literally don't care. And when you are able to forgive both them, and let's just be clear about what forgiveness means. Forgiveness just means that you're not going to dwell on the wrongs that were done to you in the past. It doesn't mean you say it's okay. It doesn't mean you say you think they're an awesome person. It doesn't mean any of those things. It simply means you're not going to let it control your life going forward. And you've got to be able to do the same thing for yourself. Like if I spent time thinking about all the stupid shit that I've done or all the things that I've fucked up, I'd never do anything else. That would keep me busy for the rest of my life thinking about all of those things. And it's such wasted energy because you can't do anything about it now. You can't unring the bell. So, how do you talk to or teach people to incorporate that forgiveness specifically around forgiving themselves? How do you do that?
So forgiveness, resentment, all of those things are rooted in fear. And remembering that, like you said, when something is done, you can't undo it. So when it came to learning how to forgive myself, it was doing the work to really look myself in the mirror and remind myself that I'm not perfect. Like I was conditioned in a way for perfection by my parents unintentionally and maybe a little bit intentionally. But there was a level of expectation that was placed on me because I was able to excel in education and do all these other things. But it was really for me, that was a way of escape. because of what I was going through that they didn't know about. I
Mm,
used education, grades, excelling as a way to I lived a kind of dual life because I'm having these experiences that I shouldn't have as a child, but I'm using education, books, excelling as a way to kind of show up and show people that I was worthy. And for me, getting straight A's was easy. So if I was to get straight A's and get a B, it would be the focus on why did you get that B?
mm,
Like what happened? Like what's the problem? And I took that on as okay, I have to be perfect. I have to have straight A's. I have to excel in everything and be perfect in everything because if I don't, I'm going to disappoint my parents. So I took that on to not want to disappoint anyone. I
yep.
wanted to excel in relationships. I wanted to excel in jobs. I wanted to excel in school because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. But the more that I worked to not disappoint others, I disappointed myself because I was trying to please other people and not taking care of myself, not being mindful of what I wanted, what I needed, and what I desired out of life. I was going off of somebody else's blueprint or ideas of who they thought I should be or of who or what I should do. So for me,
Mm.
learning to forgive meant releasing the ideas that I had to be perfect in every way for everyone else and realizing that I was perfect just as I am. And I didn't
So,
have to be who other people wanted me to be. I could be myself and that be enough.
sure. No, that's awesome. The school thing's very interesting because it's kind of like, hey, if I'm perfect over here, then it'll hide all this shit over here that I don't want anyone to know about, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's
And it came
exactly what
easy.
it was.
It came easy to you. So like, and look, so I say something like I was fortunate, so I'm 53, and when I was growing up, little boys, young men, whatever age I was, people liked if you were a good athlete, and people liked if you got good grades in school. Well, both of those things were very natural to me. So I was fortunate that the things that carry a high social currency came very easily to me. So it was easy for me to gain acceptance because from a societal perspective, I checked all the boxes. And like what you're saying too, you've got these shitty things happening to you in private that nobody else knows about. But on the public side, you can put up this facade because it comes very easy for you. And then you don't have to worry about somebody finding out or having to deal with the stuff over here. And yeah, that's quite a process to work through, huh?
Yeah. I tell people it was literally like living a double life
Mm,
because people would say, "Oh, she's always smiling. She's so happy. Like she's an overachiever. She's this, she's that." But then on the other hand, inside the house, I was, she's angry, she's fast, she's this, she's that. But it's like you don't see the difference and why I'm behaving the way that I am. And that for me became the reason why I would ask people instead of like, what's wrong with you? Like, what happened to you? Because I know that when people are acting out, whether it's a child or an adult, there's something going on. There's an unmet need. There's a deeper issue than what they're showing on the outside.
mm. What was the impetus for you to deal with these things that were happening to you when you were younger? Like what made you deal with it, get it out in the open, et cetera, et cetera? How did that happen?
So on campus at my college, I started school at 17. I was 17 years old when I went to college.
Hmm.
I graduated from high school a year early, and I had never even thought about therapy because in my family, therapy is not like a thing. It's not a thing. Like you go to church, you pray about it, you give it to God, that type of thing. And for me, once I got on campus and I started to explore things for myself, the therapy practice at the school, they had like different events, and I started to see, how supportive therapy could be for my journey. And that was where it started, where I could actually open up and talk about what I had gone through. And at the time, my best friend, who's now my ex-husband, which is a whole nother story,
Mm.
he was there for me. And I started to open up to him about it. And he said, you need to talk to your parents. He said, they don't know that this is why you acted out the way that you did. And I think it's important for them to know who did it and what happened so that this doesn't continue. And for me, it was a hard conversation to have, but it was also another part of my healing journey to be able to say, this is what was happening to me. And this is why I was the version of myself that I was at home.
Mm. How did your parents react to that when you filled them in on that?
My mom was absolutely devastated. My dad he's very non-emotional.
Mm,
So
sure.
I can't even say I can't say how he felt about it. But my mom, she was completely devastated because she was very, very overprotective. And we didn't know growing up why. We just thought, this is how our mom is. She didn't want us around, alone with male cousins or uncles or, guys from the neighborhood. It was
Sure.
never like she made sure that we were safe in that way, not knowing that or realizing that women can be predators as well.
Mm.
And unfortunately, that was the case for my sister and I. And essentially, it opened up doors for other family members to talk about the things that they went through, including my mom, because she had never told us why she was so overprotective when it came to men, but it was because she was sexually abused by her uncle when she was younger.
Mm.
So for her, it was a freeing experience because she said, I never told anybody about it. I never talked to anyone. She said, but I did my best to protect you from it. But it still happened in another way. So for me, it freed my family from these experiences because the things that you don't talk about, they're going to continue.
Wow, that's amazing that it kind of started a chain reaction and kind of got all that stuff out into the open so you could deal with it. And so a couple of things, at least the way I think about them. One, I say this a lot. The best, I tell people all the time, the best disinfectant is always sunlight. You've got to get
Absolutely.
stuff out in the open, right? You've just got to do it. And there's a way in which you can do it that's constructive and not destructive. And you should try to do it in a constructive way. You don't want to blow things up or be aggressive or because, at least from my perspective, what you're trying to do is get to a better place. And you want other people to get to a better place too. And if you do that in a way that's at least provides a way for it to be constructive, it gives you the best chance of it being constructive. And then I think therapy is a great thing with the caveat that you should be working towards a goal, meaning just getting talking about the same issues over and over again and not figuring out a way to deal with them, develop coping mechanisms, learn what you need to learn from those experiences and move forward. I think sometimes people can get stuck in that loop. And that's one of the things I always say about therapy is you should have a goal. Like your goal
Mhm.
should be to be able to process these shitty things that happened. Cause like I'm not denying, like I never it's not a hey, you're wrong, don't be such a baby, that type of thing. Got it. But you've got to deal with it and move forward. That can take some time. And like you said earlier, you got to do the work, but you have to actually do the work. You can't get stuck in that part of the loop. Otherwise, you're not going to get to where you want to be, you know? But man, that's crazy that that worked that way in your family. But it's again, it just goes to show, these are the people you're closest to and you're closest to them. And all of you had things that you guys didn't know about each other, right? Because you didn't talk about them.
Yeah. And it was more so like what happens at home stays at home kind of mindset when
Mm,
it came to family and those types of experiences. And of course, the predators were the ones that was making sure that the victims didn't speak. They didn't talk about it. They didn't share. And the more that it stayed uncovered and, you know, untalked about, the more that it continued to go down from generation to generation to generation. And for me, I was the one to speak up and break that chain of that generational curse that was being passed down to so many so many family members. It was like, it blew my mind once my mom and I started to share our story and our experiences, and knowing that, you know, the uncle that did it to her did it to so many other family members, male and female. So it was just a lot of things that were uncovered by me being willing to step up and say, you know what, this is a part of my healing journey. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to. If you're going to get past it, you have to, because you can't keep it to yourself, or it'll kind of fester and stop you from getting where you want to go. And, you know, kudos to you for having the emotional intelligence to recognize, hey, I got to deal with this. And then B, finding the resources that were helpful for you to deal with it. And is that one of the reasons why you founded the business or businesses that you have now? Because yours are all geared towards helping people, not necessarily around these particular topics, but you know, everything you do is around helping other people. Do you think this played a role in that, or was that just something that's naturally in you, and it would have happened either way?
It probably would have happened either way because I've always been a helper. I've always been a giver. I've learned that from my mom. But I've had to learn how to set boundaries in that, to give, but also give to myself, because you can't give to someone else what you don't have. So for me, learning that, because I've watched my mom my entire life give to her exhaustion, give to her detriment, and not have anything left for herself. So for me, it was learning how to have those boundaries to say, you know what, yes, I'm here for you. I'm here to give. I'm here to support. But I have to be able to give that same love, care, compassion, and grace to myself so that I can show up as the best version of myself in order to support other people. So I think it would have happened either way. Um, but the book was one of the major catalysts. I think there are things that we do in life that gets us to where we want to go faster than we would if we just, kind of winged it.
For sure. And I mean, that's kind of what your frameworks are about, right? So we talked about the freedom framework, but we haven't talked about the calm approach yet. Can we talk about that now?
Yes. So that came from, as you can see here, my planner here. I have always been a very productive person, always been able to get a lot done in a short amount of time. And I couldn't necessarily figure out what it was that, you know, kept me productive, kept me being able to achieve a lot of things in a short amount of time. And one of the things during my healing journey that I was reintroduced to was human design. And it's a tool for self discovery, a modality to really support you with being the version of yourself that you desire to be, being able to take off the conditioning from your experiences or your childhood or the way you were raised to be the most authentic version of yourself. So when people kept asking me, like, how do you get so much done? Like, I have
Mm.
accountability partners, I have people that see me, they're like, how do you get so much done? And as I sat back thinking about it, the calm method came up. And I realized I guess was a method to my madness. And being
Maybe I'm
able
not
to,
just crazy.
yeah, being able to accomplish so much and still be present for my kids, still do the self-care that I needed for myself, do all of these things, show up on social media, show up in different communities, and people are like, how in the world do you do all of these things? And it literally came to me in the shower. I have a whiteboard in my shower for this very reason, because ideas just come to me.
That's awesome.
I'm in the shower. It's like, stay calm. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And the C in the framework stands for check in with God, source, universe, higher power, to see what is it that you're desiring to do? What is it that you're desiring to accomplish, and where is this coming from? Where is this idea? Where is this calling? Where is this passion coming from? To be able to see how to build on that. The A is ask for support and accountability. So for me, accountability has literally been something that has taken me from maybe accomplishing 30 to 40% of what I desire to do to 80 to 90 and sometimes 100% of what I desire to do. So accountability has been a major tool in asking for support. Being a single mom, in the beginning, when I first made the decision to, in my marriage, it was like I had to do everything on my own. It's like I made my bed, so I got to lay in it.
Mm,
And for me, was one of the biggest mistakes because I wasn't as productive as I could be because I wasn't asking for help. I was trying to do everything on my own. I was trying to make sure that the kids were taken care of, that finances were taken care of, the business, everything was on me. But the more that I asked for help, the more that I got the support that I needed at home and in my business, the easier it was for me to show up as my most authentic self because I'm showing up in the areas that are the areas that I shine and not all of the little things that may or may not be my areas of expertise, but
yeah.
they're not the things that light me up about what I'm doing. So the more that I asked for support, the more that I had accountability in place, the more I was able to focus on the things that were really my purpose. The L stands for looking at what's working and what's not working. A lot of times, like you said, we don't know what we don't know, and we'll continue to do things because they're habits. Oh, I've done this before. I'm going to continue to do it because it's something that I've done for X amount of time. But sometimes in different seasons, what you've done before is no longer working. So
Hmm.
taking the time to process and analyze, okay, is this still working for me? Is this habit still working for me? Is this relationship still working for me? To look and see, okay, this is where I can, maybe change some things, maybe add some things, maybe take some things and do them a different way. But looking at that, taking that time to look at it gives you the leverage to do the M, which is make adjustments because you don't want to go through this process and still not do anything different. You've gotten the messages from God, source, higher power on what's next. You have the support and accountability in place, and you looked at what's working and what's not working. So now it's time to actually implement so that whether you need to go back and ask for more accountability or ask for more support, you'll know what needs to be shifted, what adjustments you need to make, and actually take action on them versus going through this process and saying, oh, well, I see it. I know it needs to change, but I'm just going to continue to do things out of insanity the same way,
Right.
expecting different results.
Totally. Yeah, the way I try to explain that to people, if you think about an airplane flying from Los Angeles to New York, if you looked at that flight path from 100,000 feet, it would look like a straight line from LA to New York. The reality is the pilots are constantly making adjustments. They're flying a little higher, a little lower because of weather. They're making slight turns because of the wind. So it's actually a bunch of adjustments that get you from LA to New York. Now, what if the pilots just didn't pay attention and said, well, New York's, east, so we're just going to fly east. Heck, you could wind up in Ireland. You don't know.
Mhm.
Um, so even though you're doing stuff and even though it feels like you're making progress, you might not be pointed at the right target at the right destination. So that framework, I love that framework because it kind of incorporates all of those things on a continuous basis. How often um, do you suggest people uh, do go through that process from C to M?
I think again, it's another framework. Sometimes you'll need all four parts of it. Other times you may not. So it just depends on where you are and what you're doing, and what you need. Because I've gone through my planner twice, well, 1.5 times now. And the first time I was pretty much going through the framework every day. But the more that I started to get a flow for it, now it's like maybe once or twice a week I'll go through it and do it. But again, it just depends on where you are, what you need, what season of life that you're in, and how often you want to check in to see, okay, where do I need to make adjustments? Who do I need to reach out to for support? and really checking in to see, am I where it is that I desire to be, or have I gotten off track?
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. A little bit out of left field because we got more to ask you on this, but you're a minister too. How did that come about?
So that's a long story.
We got
But
time.
I was very heavily indoctrinated in the church. Um, I was literally my mom almost gave birth to me in the church. I have a long line of bishops, pastors, ministers, ordained licensed ministers, all of that in my family. I was the first woman in my lineage to step up and say that I was called to preach.
Mm.
And I was already in ministry, in church, prayer ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry. I was already doing ministry work. It just seemed like the next logical step to become a licensed minister. Um, Not realizing that my ministry was not necessarily within the church. And I didn't realize that until the pandemic and church, everything shut down. Everything was virtual. And I realized that my relationship with God was based off of religion and not really about having a true relationship with Him. So I did go through the process of becoming a licensed minister under a Baptist church. Um, but I felt like at the time that was the path for me to be on, not realizing that again, my ministry was so much bigger than being in front of the church preaching. So I did the process, and at the same time, I was actually being certified as a Reiki master, but it wasn't something that I really shared or talked about because, again, within the Baptist church, those things were really on the two opposite ends of the spectrum
Right.
when it came to faith. So it was like, again, having that experience of living this double life. And it wasn't until I started to really walk in my brand as the golden child where I was able to reconcile the spiritual aspect of who I am and also the physical aspect of who I am and my purpose of what I was called to do. Because before I was separating it. I was like, okay, I'll do the ministry part over here. I'll do the eccentric spiritual stuff over here on the low because in front of people, I'm a licensed minister. Licensed ministers don't do Reiki in the Baptist. So there's a lot of times where I've had to really now learning to reconcile the different parts of who I am and the different parts of my experience, the different parts of my accomplishments, like being a licensed minister, but also being a Reiki master and a human design expert. All of these things make up who I am. They make up my experiences, but they don't make up the fullness of who I am.
Mm. So I just want to clarify. I think what I heard you say was when you first started down the path of ministry and becoming a minister, it was through the strict, and by the way, Baptist churches talk about strict framework. Baptist church have like they don't mess around. This is the way, right? I mean, that's how Baptist churches work. I've got a friend, my wife's best friend is from Arkansas, so I know a lot of people who are parts of Southern Baptist churches,
Mm-hmm.
and that's absolutely the way they like. This is it. These are the rules, and you don't break the rules. And I think what you said was, yes, you did that, but your relationship with God was more than that. And it got better once you explored that relationship outside of that framework. Is that what you were saying?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Like you literally hit the nail on the head because like you said, it was more so based off of rules and regulations, what to do, what not to do, how to behave, how to not misbehave. And the more that I explored Reiki, the more that I explored human design, the deeper and more meaningful my relationship with God became
Mm.
because it wasn't about following the rules, it was about walking in who he created me to be and being able to shine my light on the world in a way that wasn't only for specific people, for those that only believed in the Bible or that only went to church. It became a more inclusive ministry for me outside of the church and building my relationship with God through these different modalities.
Super, super interesting. So that it's actually one of the challenges that I have with organized religion. And look, I'm very respectful. There's lots of people that have lots of different beliefs. I can listen to and accept that people have all of those beliefs. Um, I am not that way, and that's okay. But one of the things that's hard for me to reconcile in my head, and this is going to sound like I think I'm an awesome person, and that's not necessarily the case. But I've been married to my wife for 32 years. Never once have I cheated on her, or nor would I. Not because I'm religious, because it would bother me personally. It would bother me if I did that. I have a ton of respect for her. I would never do that to her, but the reason I don't cheat is because of me, not her. You know what I mean? I've never laid a finger on her. I'd never laid a finger on my kids. I've never touched an illegal drug in my life. I don't drink, so I've never been drunk in my life, which is kind of funny because like you can't see the rest. Like I'm 6'3", I'm a big guy, and I look like a knuckle dragging Neanderthal kind of guy. You know, I should drink beer and smack my wife around and all the things that go with what I look like. That's not who I am, but it's what I look like, and I know that, and that's okay. I'm fine with people thinking that. Doesn't matter to me because I'm not that way. Um, I try to treat people well. But I've had people say, well, you're not going to go to heaven because you haven't accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior. I'm like, so the guy that's in church that's stealing from his company and cheating on his wife and beating his kids and drinking and driving, and he's going to heaven because he's accepted Jesus Christ as his personal savior. And I'm not. That's your religion? Seriously? Like that's what you're preaching to people? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. It's not a judgment. I'm not trying to say I'm better, he's worse, any of those things. Just like what you were talking about makes a ton of sense to me because it feels like what you've done is found your relationship with God as you see it. And that gives you meaning and purpose to live the way you think you're supposed to live based on your relationship with him. That makes a ton of sense to me. The first one doesn't, the second one does. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Because what I realized about religion in general, any religion is divisive. It's meant to divide people. I'm
Mm.
wrong, you're right. I'm this, I'm that, you're not. And the more that I took a step back to see it for what it was, the more I was able to, eat the meat and spit out the bones. Like take what has been beneficial for me from that and leave the rest because a lot of it was structured for control, not for the benefit of the people, but
Mm.
not for you to be, the most authentic version of yourself is to be this cookie cutter version of the leader or the guide or the pastor or whoever, but it was really just to, you know, force division among people, but also be controlled, not intuitively guided, not spiritually guided to do something different in the world.
Yeah, that makes that makes perfect sense. And let me just be clear for anyone listening too. I'm not judging people who think that way. Like you're entitled to your thoughts. You're entitled to your choices. I support that 100%. I got no problem with it. I just have trouble reconciling the discrepancy that I just described in my own head. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems like you should want people and judge people based on what they do, not based on following these 5 steps. But that's just me. Again, I'm not casting aspersions on people that are religious. I'm not casting aspersions on people that believe those things. That's fine. You get to do what you want to do. It just that's hard for me to reconcile in
Yeah.
my head.
And for
That's
me,
just
it
me.
brought so much more. it brought so much more freedom
Mm.
to my relationship with God and my relationship with myself, instead of trying to fit into somebody else's box of who they thought I was supposed to be as a minister, um, as a as a leader, as a woman in general. I was able to step outside of that and say, you know what, I get to define what success looks like. I get to define what my relationship with God looks like. I get to define what my life looks like, and not have to worry about what somebody else is going to think or what somebody else is going to say about the things that I share, the things that I study, and the things that I do.
Ooh, get me all fired up, Jalisa. You're speaking my language. I love it. So you serious, like that excites me when people are living the life that they choose to live. And I say unapologetically, and I don't mean that like fuck everybody else. That's not my point. But hey, this is what's important to me, and this isn't an accident that I'm choosing to be the way I am or do the things that I'm choosing to do. This is very purposeful, and that's really exciting to me. Now, you've used the word authentic several times. I'm curious, and it's not a test. I'm not trying to trap you here. How would you explain authenticity to someone else, or how do you define authenticity to the people that you work with, like in your coaching business, for example?
So I mentioned in the beginning that we're all the golden child.
Mm.
We all have specific experiences, specific things about us that make us unique. And for me, the more we walk in that uniqueness, the more we kind of take off the conditioning that we've been whether raised in or seen or experienced within society, the more we take those things off and kind of see ourselves for who we were created to be, the uniqueness, the quirks, the things that people may call weird, or people may judge you for, people may say, oh, there's something wrong with them because they do XYZ. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We're all different and unique. So the more you can walk in the uniqueness of your personality, of your experiences, of, you know, just the way that you see things or the way that you believe, the more authentic you can be. The more that you don't worry about how other people perceive you, the more you don't worry about other people's expectations of you. That for me is being authentic. Because yes, for me, I do a lot for other people, but people literally they say like Jalisa is going to be Jalisa. Because they know that they're going to get Jalisa, the quirky, the goofy, the funny, the sometimes like they're going to get me every single time. I'm not trying to show up and perform because I want someone to like me or accept me. I'm going to show up as me. And like you said, either you're going to accept me or you're not. You're going to like me or you're not. You're going to love me or you're not. And that's okay. That's between you, yourself, and you. But for me, being me, I'm going to love and accept all of me, even the quirks, even the flaws, even the mistakes. All of that encompasses who I am. And my desire is for other people to see that as well. Because again, we've been conditioned based off of our experiences, based off of how we were raised to believe certain things about ourselves that aren't true, to believe that, oh, you're there's something wrong with you, or to believe that you're angry, or to believe that you're unorganized, or to believe that you're never going to achieve anything, or that you won't be successful. But the more that we can strip those things away, the more we can see ourselves for who we're truly meant to be.
Oh, so good. I'm sure you're gonna have to come around my podcast. You're doing a better job than me. You're explaining all this stuff. I love it. I absolutely love that definition. That's so perfect and so good. It's funny to me. I don't know if it's nurture or nature. It's probably like everything. It's probably some combination
Mm-hmm.
of the two. But um, I've always known that I'm weird. Like I've even as a kid, I knew I was different than almost everybody, but it never bothered me that I was as different. And don't get me wrong, I wanted people to like me. I wanted girls in particular to like me. I wanted to be popular. Like I wanted all of those things, but I wasn't going to be somebody that I'm not. to make it happen. And if it didn't happen, all right, whatever. Um, and maybe there's some of that, like I talked about earlier. I was lucky that the things I were good at carried a high social currency, so it was easy for me to be accepted and fit in because I did well in school, and I do, process things quickly, and so I'm quick in conversations, and I can tell a good joke and blah 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 blah, all the other stuff that goes with it. But I just know that people are happier when they quit worrying about what other people think about them, and I just try to encourage that so much. And it's funny to me because like the people that I'm close with, it's a very eclectic group. Most of them, the only thing we have in common is we're all authentic. And it's not like we're, some Stepford people that are all cut from the same cloth and I'll do the same things and I'll like the same things. But like, I have something in common with them. Like, some of them I played sports with and some of them I had classes with in school and some of them I worked with and we saw the world the same way through those processes. But I can't think of anyone I'm close to that's fake or pulls any punches. Like that's one of the things I can count on is, I can, I could ask one of my friends, hey, did I screw that up? They'd be like, oh yeah, you fucked that up royally. Yeah, that was all you. Like they wouldn't lie to me about it. You know what I mean? They would tell me the truth. And I like being I like being surrounded by people that would tell me the truth because I just want to know the reality of the situation. I can deal with it, whatever it is. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to be influenced. I don't want any of those things. I just want to know the truth and give me the facts and we'll figure it out from there. That's kind of the way um, I think about it. So, how do you deal with that with your coaching clients to get them to see authenticity the way you just so eloquently described it? How do you coach them to get to that mental spot?
Of course, everybody's experience is going to be different with that because a lot of times it starts with the uncovering because you've been conditioned for so long to think that you were a certain way. But I use human design as a way to kind of help them to see that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you being organized. There's nothing wrong with you being multi-passionate because a lot of times, like for me, one of the things in human design that it really supported me with not boxing myself in was realizing that one of the things about my human design is that I'm multi-passionate, multifaceted, multi-talented. So it's not for me to have a niche. It's for me to do the things that light me up and share the things with the world that light me up. And if that's 10 things or 5 things or 20 things, that's okay. I don't have to put myself into a box based off of people saying, oh, you need to focus on a niche because you need to have this target audience. You need to have this. You need to have this avatar. And those things never worked for me. I could not figure it out why it never worked for me. But human design gave me that freedom to see, like, oh, that's because that's not how I'm designed to do things. So for me, it was getting clear on those different parts of me that I may have covered up or tried to do a different way that didn't work and why it didn't work because I'm not designed that way.
Yep.
So that's part of the work that I do, supporting people with that, but also being able to uncover the traumatic experiences that led to the limiting beliefs that they have. So a lot of times if we're stuck in certain habits or stuck in certain relationships or stuck in certain places in our lives, it's because we have some limiting beliefs around that thing or around who we are. So being able to support them with uncovering those limiting beliefs, seeing the root of them, and being able to release them through the energetic work that I do, that supports them with seeing like, oh, this wasn't true. It was a belief that I held. It was something that was holding me back, but it no longer gets to hold me back because now I'm aware of it and I'm releasing it and moving forward with a new belief and a new lease on life. So that I do trauma and money work. I am trauma of money certified. So a lot of people's relationships with money are based off of past experiences, based off of our 0 to 7 age range where we saw our parents deal with or not deal with money. So being able to uncover those things and support them with seeing, okay, this is where this came from. This is why you have a hard time budgeting or sticking to a budget, or you have a hard time with even looking at your finances. You kind of swipe the card and like hope it works. This is where that came from, like crossing your fingers behind your back because you don't want to look at it, you don't really want to know where it's coming from. So really supporting people with that so that they'll know how to navigate and move forward in a healthier way in their relationship with money. So I do a lot of different things. I have a lot of different modalities to support people with really uncovering, get like I see the image of an onion, you peeling back those layers, starting with where you are. You might have already peeled some back when you start working with me, but the more that you do, the more that you get to the root of who you are and be able to see yourself, look yourself in the mirror and love everything about yourself. The physical, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, and even the financial aspect of your life, being able to love and accept it and know that things are going to change, you're going to evolve, you're going to transform. But in that moment, you are exactly who you're supposed to be and where you're supposed to be.
The so the money thing just popped into my head. So we had super neat lady on, we haven't aired her episode yet, but she's a psychologist and she started a business with her husband who's a financial planner, and they do kind of what you were just talking about, which is talk to people and help them with their investment goals and managing their portfolios, but understanding why they have the thoughts, beliefs, and relationship with finances that they do, and helping them get to a better spot around those things. So that's super interesting. Her name's Ashley, Dr. Ashley Rankin. We're trying to get her husband onto the podcast as well because he's the financial planner part. And we've had a couple that, yeah, we've had two guys on that they actually work together in a financial planning firm. But yeah, like I said, we cover a wide variety here at Salty Ginger Talk. You never know what we're going to be talking about depending on who the guest is that day. What's an example? Could you give us an example of a limiting belief? I'm not like, don't name names or anything, but what's a limiting belief that people struggle with that you help them kind of identify and overcome?
So some of the big ones, and I kind of mentioned it, is that they're not enough,
Hmm.
or they're not worthy, or even going down to talking about money, like that they're incapable of making more money. There are a lot of things that have kind of been ingrained in our psyche, in our subconscious to believe and kind of just act off of and not really know, okay, why is it that I am the way that I am in my relationships when certain things happen? Why do I react the way that I do? We don't think about why. We just, it's kind of really being on autopilot. So doing this work, it really helps to bring more awareness to your day-to-day habits or your day-to-day being, how you're showing up. So that's really what it's about, like kind of uncovering the subconscious beliefs that have caused you to act unconsciously about money, relationships, business, everything. We have those limiting beliefs around that keep us in this cycle of insanity. Like, I've been doing it this way for so long. You'll have conversations when there's like, that's just how I am. No. You can definitely change it. Like they're saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You definitely can. You can.
Totally. So on the money, that's super interesting. Cause like on the money limiting beliefs, I can like I was raised very blue collar. My dad sold magazines and my mom stayed at home. And we certainly, we weren't poor, but we weren't anywhere near rich either. And there was times where it was like, hey, we can't go grocery shopping for a couple of days till dad gets paid again. Um, but it wasn't bad. Like I had a great childhood. I was fortunate. Because I've had lots of guests on that, lots of terrible things happened to them when they were kids. I didn't have any of those things happen. My dad was a hard ass, and I didn't have any of the challenges that a lot of people have. But it was ingrained in us that people that made a lot of money were rich, and they, were screwing people over and had stolen it from people, and they were bad people. And I can remember thinking, my wife and I, we got married very young. I was 21 and she was 19 when we got married. And I can remember thinking, man, if I could just get a job or find a job where I made 50 grand a year, I would be set. for life. And I was 25 when I made 50 grand a year. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. Like it just all of a sudden it hit me like, hey, this isn't going to get me where I want to be. I'm nowhere near it. What the hell's going on here? But I think that's like what you're talking about, like a limiting belief that I'd been raised with my entire life. And just all of a sudden, I kind of poked my head up through like Neo in the Matrix, where I woke up in the pod, like, get this off of me. I got to get out of here.
Yeah, because you have that belief that wealthy people are greedy or they're a certain way, you're going to sabotage your financial situation so that you don't end up wealthy and be viewed as greedy or be viewed as, a bad person. And but you don't realize it until you become self where you're like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute, this is not where I want to be or where I want to stay. And you kind of, again, if you don't have that self-awareness, you stay stuck in those boxes of those limiting beliefs.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, shoot, I make good money. How much more do I need to make? Well, I don't know. What's it worth? And it's funny because, the way I explain it to people now, too many people are stuck in what, like using your framework, limiting belief of I need to trade my time for money. Like that is not, there's no reason that you need to agree to that type of compensation. It's okay if you're fine with that. Like if you like whatever, working a retail job or being a plumber or doing whatever, awesome. Good for you. I'm happy for you. I'm not judging you in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying any of those things. However, if you think you deserve more money because you can't live on what you make, then you're thinking about compensation incorrectly because the market compensates people based on the value they bring to the market. It's that straightforward. So, the example I use is working at McDonald's, which I think is awesome and a valuable experience everyone should do at some point in their life, um, or being a professional athlete. So, if you are, let's just use whatever, basketball, football, doesn't matter what the sport is, it literally doesn't matter. But you have a certain set of skills that almost nobody else has to participate in that sport. People are willing to pay a lot of money to watch people with those skills compete against each other. And you're able to participate in that market because of those skills. Because of that, you can command a very high salary because they can't replace you with somebody else. It's that straightforward.
Mm.
But let's say you learn to work the fryolator at McDonald's. And this is not a bashing of McDonald's. So that is a great, honest, hard day's work. And you should be proud if that's what you're doing. I would argue you should work on running or owning your own McDonald's. Like, why not continue to get better at what you do all the
Mm-hmm.
time? But let's go back to the guy working the fry station. You are replaceable. It's not hard to teach someone to run the fryolator. And so if you don't bring a different set of skills to the market, you're not going to command outsized compensation. It's that straightforward. It's not a human rights issue. It's a market economy issue. And I think people think about that incorrectly. I'm curious if you've ever encountered that with people in your coaching.
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but what something that came to mind as you were talking is yes, it's the skill, but it's also the personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have the skills, whether you're a pro athlete or not, but if your attitude is shitty, a lot of people are not going to want to deal with you. They're not going to want to watch you. Or if your home life is a mess, you're cheating on your wife, you got, all this other stuff going on. And it's like, okay, you're making money, but who are you? Who are you really? And it's
Yes,
like the different experience between, maybe McDonald's customer service or Chick-fil-A customer service, you have a different experience. You have a completely different experience because of the
totally.
personality, the culture of it. And it's really, yes, you're going to build when it comes to finances if you continue to do the work, but you're only going to get but so far if you're not doing the work when it comes to your personality, your character, how you're showing up, that authenticity that we talked about, you can make the money. But if your relationships are a mess because
Yep.
you've done this work to make the money, people still aren't going to want to be bothered with you. You can have all the money in the world. But like we talked about, our relationships are the most important thing. And it starts with your relationship with you. So if they don't do the work to do that relationship with themselves, they can make all the money that they want. They can improve their financial situation as much as they can. But it's only going to be but so much value in that for your life if you don't do the work when it comes to your personality, your character, and who you're being, not just about what you're doing.
Mm, I love that. You know, it's interesting. So I went through college on a baseball scholarship, and so I played a lot of sports when I was a kid. And I was like the captain of almost every team I was on, and blah blah blah. Um, but coaches loved having me on their teams, not because I was a good athlete, but because I was a good person. So I was a leader and I worked really hard. And it was very easy for me to challenge other people to work hard and raise their games. So it wasn't a coincidence that the teams I was on were generally successful because we kind of demanded, like, if you're going to be on this team, you're going to do your best. And if you don't want to do your best, if you don't want to get along, if you don't want to be a good teammate, we'll deal with that. Like, we'll deal with you. Don't get me wrong. I don't need a coach to do it. I'll do it. You don't have to worry about him. You got to worry about me because like you're causing us problems, and that's a problem for all of us, you know. And the same thing applies in the business world. You couldn't have said it better. You're so correct. Where do you where do you find your clients? Like, how do you connect with your clients?
So it's really building relationships with people. A lot of the work that I've done for myself recently is kind of releasing the idea that I have to do things when it comes to business a certain way, because
Mm,
you have the gurus, you have the super successful people making $300,000 in a week, and they're like, you gotta do this framework or you gotta do this XYZ. And for me, it's really been releasing the idea around having to do certain things in my business just because I feel like, oh, it's work for somebody else. So for me, it's been a very interesting journey, definitely interesting. But a lot of what I do comes from relationships and really from people hearing my story and knowing that, hey, this is someone that I want to connect with. This is someone that I want to work with, and being able to just be authentic, be myself for people to see like, oh, she may not have it all figured out, but she's an amazing person to be around. She's an amazing person to have a conversation with, and that's someone that I'm willing to allow to invest in me and to invest in them. So it's really from relationships and just sharing my story.
well, and you're a thinker too, right? I mean, that's one of the big values that you bring is you're not stuck in, hey, process, process, process. You need somebody that will either by themselves or force you to kind of get up above it all and say, hey, what is it we're trying to accomplish here? What are our goals? Where are we headed? What is the plan? And how do we structure the environment, not just the processes, but the environment so that we can achieve the plan? Right. So there's a ton of value in that too. I would think that that's what people recognize in you.
Yeah, I would think so too. Because it's not just, I don't give people
Yeah.
cookie cutter things. I don't offer anything that's really like cookie cutter. Like, yes, I have frameworks, but again, it's more so for you to be able to implement and put in the things that are going to be beneficial for you into the framework, into the calm method. And for me, that's what it's really about: recognizing the individuality of people and meeting them there to be able to support them where they are with the things that may come up.
Mm, yeah. I love that. What is the She's Ready Society? Talk a little bit about that.
So that's one of my memberships, and that's specifically for aspiring authors. Um, and I have two different tiers. of it. It's one, if you just want to kind of have a done with you experience through your self publishing process. And then the other tier is a done for you. We, my team and I, we basically have everything that you need as far as the editing, the design, the even if you want us to write it for you, we do ghostwriting. So depending on where you are in your journey and the level of support, you would join there. But it's really based off of my understanding of how having a community and having that accountability in place when it comes to doing things like self-publishing a book, how supportive that can be. Because you not only have, me there in your corner and my team there, you have a group of other women that are doing the same thing, something similar, writing a book, self-publishing a book, and
Mm.
you're each other's cheerleaders. So we literally in that space, okay, for this week or this month, we're going to focus on promoting this person's book. So everyone in the community rallies around supporting that person, whether it's their book launch or just for that week they want to get more sales for their book or get more eyes on their book. That's what we focus on. So it's really that community aspect and really providing people whether they want to done with you support or done for you support for their self-publishing journey, because we all have different experiences, different journeys when it comes to self-publishing.
Sure. No, what a cool experience. That must be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love. For me, it's I love communities because, like you said, we don't know everything. I learned so much by facilitating these, community spaces, because it's not just me. It's not just me, sharing. It's not just me giving. It's not just me, pouring into the members. They're pouring into each other, and in return, they're also pouring into me.
Yeah, such cool stuff. You also do speaking.
Hmm.
Where do you speak
Yeah.
at?
I do a lot of podcast interviews. I've probably done probably 100 podcast interviews now.
Sure.
um, I do some speaking for domestic violence organizations. I do speaking for different groups, different health and wellness related groups. I have other partnerships with other meetup groups where I do speaking. So, and I've done some church speaking, but it just depends on the setting and the environment.
Got it. Yeah, you're clearly not afraid to speak in a group, which is awesome. You've got such a great personality too. You've just got to be well received when you go out and do that. It would shock me if you were not. How do people work with you? Like if someone wanted to work with you or wanted to talk to you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yes. So my website is jalisahardy.com. Um, all my social media handles, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, all at Jalisa the Golden Child. Um, but as far as like reaching out to, I would say where to get started would be booking a self-discovery and alignment call with me. So that we can work together to see what your challenges are, what it is that you really want to focus on, and move forward from there with creating a plan for how to work together to, support you with your growth and your transformation.
Mm, love that. You don't have to go far. Like just look at the show notes, guys. We'll have all those links that Jaleesa just listed out. They'll be right down below. So you'll be able to check out her website. You'll be able to check out her YouTube channel, check out her Instagram, all the things she just talked about. We'll have those down in the show notes so you don't have to go far to find her. So Jaleesa, one of the things I always do, I feel like I ask good questions. I feel like we cover a lot of territory when I have people on the podcast, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything because I'm certainly not perfect. I don't throw stones because I live in a glass house. Um, is there anything I haven't asked you, or are there any topics that we haven't talked about yet that you want to make sure we talk about while we're in front of the audience?
Hmm. You do ask good questions, Joe. You really do.
I'm inquisitive.
Yes, and I feel like we covered a lot. Um, I can't necessarily think of anything else that we haven't covered that I feel we need to cover for today.
That's cool. Yeah, no problem at all. I just like I say, I don't want someone to leave and go, damn it, we didn't talk about this. I wish I'd had a chance and I couldn't get it in. So I always try to open the floor as we're winding down the conversation to make sure that we don't miss anything important because Look, I say it in my outro videos. I always think, shit, we can't keep finding all these awesome people. Like we got to be running out of awesome people, and then we keep finding awesome people to come on the podcast. And one of the things I like to do, so like just by nature, I'm kind of a direct, hard charging, take the bull by the horns kind of a guy, and that's the way I approach things, and that works for me, and that's fine. And it resonates with some people, but not everyone. And so, hearing a different approach, hearing a different thought process, hearing a different mindset, hearing it differently sometimes is helpful. And so we try to find people who are trying to accomplish the same things. And clearly, you and I are working with people to try to accomplish the same thing, to get them to take charge of their life and live in a purposeful, meaningful, authentic way. And just really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. You did such a great job, and I really, really enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, I enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, guys, we'll have all of Jalisa's contact info and links down in the show notes. Don't have to go far to get in touch with her. Jalisa, thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. And we'll be back in touch.
Yes, talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks. Okay, guys, there you go. So again, we keep finding awesome people. We keep bringing them on the podcast to give you as many different ways and ideas to build the life that you want as we can find. And Jalisa did not disappoint. Super neat lady. Loved her approach to things, loved her thought process to things. Really appreciate her willingness to talk candidly about some of the challenges that she faced. Some of those things are difficult sometimes to talk about. And she did it with such grace, and she was so intelligent about how she approached it. And just really appreciate her sharing some of those stories. Then fast forward to what she's doing now. And she's got the coaching business whereby she can help you think about how you approach things, maybe your relationship with money, maybe the limiting beliefs that are holding you back, all sorts of good stuff that Jalisa was able to come on and talk to us about, and her approach to helping people with those things. So loved having her on the podcast. She did a great job, and we're just really appreciative we got that time with her. So James puts it up over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All our podcast episodes are there. Links to all our social media accounts are there. We publish a newsletter every weekday. You can subscribe to there, and make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to our podcast, whatever platform you consume it on. We're going to keep giving you ideas and tips and ways you can build the life that you want. We're going to keep bringing guests on who have their own thoughts and their own experiences that helped them get to where they're at in life. They're going to share those experiences. Awesome stuff. Super helpful for you to pursue the life that you're looking to pursue. You don't want to miss any of that good stuff. Make sure you catch our next episode. We will see you there.